Hey, my name is Merikay Hunt, and we've had some technological issues, but you know what? Sometimes you just got to lean in and try again. So today I am welcoming you to Wondermous, our podcast, A Healthcare Leadership Journey. I have a very, very special guest. He's actually one of my author heroes, Bob Nelson. He is president of Nelson Motivation, Inc. Bob, introduce yourself to our audience and let them know a little bit about you and your background.
Well, I'm a legend in my own mind. Okay. I've spent my whole career in human resources, much like yourself, and I've always had a strong love of learning, going back as far as I can remember. And along the way, I have found ways to give back, if you will, to build on what I've learned to help others. It started when I was initially, first job I had was working in human resources at a corporation in St. Paul, Minnesota,
Mhm.
control data, and I was uh, did some recruiting there. And I remember all my friends at college, they were looking for jobs, so they came and talked to me about how to get a job, and I would tell them as best I could. And after a while, I got tired of repeating myself, so I wrote down what I had to say on one Sunday, and I would just hand them that. Go read this, then we'll talk, and then one guy I was helping, he said he had worked in printing. He goes, I could print this into a book for you. I go, let's do that, and you're hired. So
Awesome.
and that was my first book, and that was came out when I was 25, and I'm just signed up my 32nd book with HarperCollins Leadership. It'll come out next year, called A Thousand One Ways to Grow Employees.
Awesome. Well, and that's actually, I have my book here, 1001 Ways to Energize Employees. That was, you can see all the little tabs I have, but that was actually one of my favorites, and your 1001 Ways to reward employees. And, giving recognition to people and building strong relationships is such a great theme. Speak to that a little bit of your perspective of what you've seen in your journey.
Well, the most proven principle in management is you get what you reward, often
Mhm.
called the greatest management principle in the world.
Mhm.
Whatever you recognize, thank someone for, they'll do again.
Right.
And so it's a powerful concept. And in fact, part of my journey was saying, well, this is so proven, goes way back to Skinner, reinforcement, positive reinforcement theory, and and why don't people use it more? Why don't they?
Right.
Because in my experience, I worked at the corporation I worked for in finance for Wells Fargo at their headquarters in Minneapolis, um, and I didn't see where a lot of recognition was taking place. And so when I after I got my BA and I got a MBA and I worked on a PhD um, with Peter Drucker, by the way, father of modern management.
Yes.
And I did my study on my doctoral dissertation on just very simple. I think the best research is very simple,
Mhm.
and it was on why don't managers recognize employees. Uh,
Wow.
and I did a 3-year study on it, so a deep dive, and
Sure.
found that as to exactly why they don't. And I compared that with managers that were good at recognition to see what was different. And I found 99 variables that differentiate these two groups of users and non-users. And I've basically been working with that data set ever since, and sharing with other people how to get their leaders to do this, or how to get managers themselves to do it. So most managers don't think it's that important.
Right.
They
And
don't,
that
people just want money, don't you know, and the money and benefits and promotions, and that's it. But and so when I work with the company, I'll ask them what do your employees want? How do they want to be recognized? And oh, well, they want more money. I go, really? That's what they said? Well, it must be because that's where we're spending all our budget on money and benefits. So it must be what they want. Well, then let me just ask them, because we'll confirm that you're right. And of course, they never say that. they never want. Of course, people want more money, yes, but once you're paid competitively, money itself takes a secondary position to being part of a team and being part of something larger than yourself, and good communications and having someone that cares about your future, and
Sure.
on and on. There's all these intangibles that really make up the fabric of anyone's life and workplace. So I try to get people focused on those things, and not just doing setting up another program,
Right.
which people are motivated by programs. They're motivated on a very here and now personal level. So my
Mhm.
focus and control quickly went to the relationship between the manager and the employee that reports to them, and
Right.
how to
Well,
maximize that.
and I'm feeling led and called to share kind of what happened in our journey together to do this podcast. So we initially tried to record this on Riverside, and we couldn't get the technology to work. So then we shifted gears and went to Zoom. And then I thought I hit the record button, but I haven't recorded on Zoom in a while. So I forgot to choose, do I do it to the cloud or do I do it to the computer? So here I am interviewing like one of my icons, and I screwed up. So here's the point. We're all going to have those moments where we goof and we make a mistake, and it's our attitude and it's our mindset and our how we're going to look at it, our perspective that's going to keep us in the game. So with that said, what's been a big challenge that you've overcome in your career?
Well, first of all, my perspective on what you just said is that I got a chance to spend more time with you. So
Oh, yay.
I'm actually delighted by it, and and since I love this topic and the things you're doing as much as you do, I think it's a good thing. So
Thank
who
you.
cares about a glitch, you know? That's I think that's how life should be. It's like the faster you can overcome the glitches and the setbacks, and move on to the next victory, the happier you're going to be, and the and the more successful you're going to be. Instead of,
Absolutely.
we all know people that wallow in regret and wallow in they weren't treated right, and
Hmm.
they hold a grudge. You know anyone that holds a grudge for years? I do, and it's like, who do you think that's hurting?
Yeah,
That's not that
exactly.
person's not staying up late worried about your grudge. It's keeping you up late. It's,
I heard once that the biggest burden that we can carry is regret. And, I shared with you earlier in take two that I worked for Dale Carnegie for 12 years and taught for them and sold off and on for 8. And I didn't realize when I was trying to get in touch with you by phone to see how we could get the technology to work, that you actually worked with you were VP of Blanchard Training and Development. So share a little bit about that experience.
the 1 minute manager, yes. The 1 minute praising, 1 minute reprimands, 1 minute goal setting. Yes, so that was a bird of a feather, and I felt fortunate to have found and worked with Dr. Blanchard, and it it opened a lot of doors for me. I worked for him for 10 years. I had 5 different jobs in that 10 year. Each one was created for me. So
Wow.
it's sort of, that's how life should be. It's sort of like, what do you want to do? Where would be a place that would support what you want to do? And then do that. So I think you got to live life according to your rules, not someone else's. Even your parents. I think my parents were very loving and supportive, unconditional love. But what I'm doing is, I guess, partly a function of that, for sure. But uh, we all have to carve our own path,
Sure.
and, and so. But at any rate, I've always had a love of learning, and so I always took a lot of workshops and seminars. And you were with Dale Carnegie, which is a wonderful outfit. I kind of I realized early in my career that I wanted to be. I saw the value of being good at speaking.
Hmm.
And I was an introvert, so I was not. Speaking did not come easy for me. The first time but I said, this is a skill I got to learn. I remember I was took debate in high school, and I remember the first time I debated. Afterwards, I threw up. I was so
Oh
nervous.
no.
and and, you just keep going, and you get anything you keep at, you get better at, and
Mhm.
it's a long way from that moment to I've had years where I've made over $1 million speaking
Wow.
for companies, and it seems beyond belief, but one step at a time, and speaking is a major part of my the influence I can have in helping others, and also revenues that I make and supporting myself and in my vision to continue. So that
Absolutely.
combined with books, I did my first. I mentioned the first book. I was 25, and that uh, and I kind of did books for hire, and eventually with Ken Blanchard, and I interviewed with him. Uh, and he that was just a wonderful opportunity. I after our 45-minute interview, he said, "Well, we're looking for a CFO. You could do that if you wanted for our company. We're looking to develop a supervisory training program, and you could do that if you'd like. And or I've got a publisher who wants me to do a textbook, and you can co-author with me. So then decide what you want to do and let me know." And I kind of floated out of that meeting and ended up kind of doing some of all of those. I did I did the product development for Ken, and also helped him write his own books he was doing. I helped him write 7 books as a ghostwriter, and we spent a lot of time about talking about what publishing and how to help people, and so it was just a wonderful. It was just for the time together. It was
Sure.
very inspiring, um, and so. And along the way, I actually I went to get my PhD with Peter Drucker, uh,
Hmm.
and I remember it was a in the class I was taking from him on called reward systems, on
Mm,
formal and informal reward systems, and how control systems and businesses. I remember one lecture he said, talked about positive reinforcement. And he said, as impactful as this principle is, it has not been used very much in
right.
business. And I remember thinking, I'm going to do something about that. And I left that, I left that class and drove back home an hour and a half away, and got home and typed out a letter to a New York publisher with my idea for a book about simple ways to reward and thank people, and spent 2 weeks trying to get Peter Drucker, CEO of Workman Publishing, on the phone, and finally I could hear his his assistant say, "Would you talk to this guy? He keeps calling," and
Passion and
literally,
persistence. I love it.
and literally, what do you want?
Yeah.
I go, well, Mr. Drucker, Mr. Workman, I wrote a letter about with an idea for a book, and he cut me off. He says, we're not going to respond to a letter that you wrote us about a book. If you have a book you want to do, you gotta think it through and do a proposal, and about why out of at that time 70,000 books that were published that
Wow.
year, out of the 70,000 books published this yours has to be one of them, and why we're the only
Why?
publisher that could possibly get it right.
He
And
wanted you to present the points of difference of your book.
yeah, and then literally he's doing all I haven't said anything, he's doing all the talking, and as he goes to hang up, he says, and by the way, we get 10,000 book proposals in a year.
Oh, wow.
We publish 24 books. Click. And I could have said, oh well, I tried, but I said, well, game on. Time to do a book
Absolutely.
proposal. You gotta
No
you have
just
to you
means
have to
not yet, right?
you have to roll with it. Yeah, and so and I got I did a proposal, and that was a whole journey. And but next time I talked to Peter Workman, I was sitting across from him at his desk in New York City,
Wow.
and literally, I remember he opened my proposal. I laid out a couple pages of what it looked like, and he said, "This could work."
Nice.
And now, so he's sold on the project. He doesn't know me from Adam. So he said, "Tell me about yourself." And I said, "Well, I'm working as an administrator in a training and consulting company in Escondido, California. But that's not what I really want to do. And he goes, "Oh, what do you really want to do?" And I looked him in the eye and said, "Be a best-selling author." Yeah,
Nice.
I could see a little twinkle in his eye, like, deal done, done deal. And that book's now in its 65th printing. It's sold 2 million copies.
That's awesome.
And they sent me on a book tour, which wasn't done then. It's certainly not done now. And I
Sure.
went to 27 cities. And when I finished that, I wanted to keep doing it. And
Mm.
that was another glitch. Life is a bunch of glitches. How do you roll with them or roll over them and then and
I
go to
call
the
them
next?
stepping stones. So
There you go.
oftentimes,
Go go to the next win, and he literally. But that's a fun story just to continue that. So the book kind of the book took off. I introduced it at ASTD conference in Anaheim in 1994. Well, that's another story. I wasn't speaking. I didn't have my PhD. I called the bookstore manager at the conference, and we're not gonna carry a book if someone's not even speaking here. I go, well, it's a new book, and okay, just to shut me up because we'll take a box, and then
nice.
I kept working on them, and they ended up taking 3 boxes, against his better judgment, and when I got there the conference the day before. I went to check out the bookstore, and he goes, "You're Bob Nelson?" I go, "Do you have any more of those books? They were already sold out."
Oh, that's great.
And he goes, "Well, I get some." And I drove back to I'm in San Diego, so I drove back to San Diego, and I happened to have I just ordered a lot of books, and so I packed the car with every book I could find, and drove back there, got a whole cart, and wheeled them in. And he goes, "Oh, we didn't order all those." I go, "No problem. Don't have to do anything if they don't sell. We don't have paperwork. I'll just take them back." And
Right.
okay, sold every freaking book.
That's awesome.
Sold 1,200 books out of the conference bookstore at ASTD. And in the first couple of months, the book had sold 40,000 copies. So it was a bona fide hit out of the chute, for a business book yet,
Sure.
for
Well,
that matter.
in a couple things. So, taking a risk as a professional is important. And you've mentioned lifelong learning. And I think that's one of the reasons why I admire people in business and in healthcare, because you really are committing to your entire career to learning. And when you think about really the essence of what drives our core being, do you feel like it's to help people and it's because of your passion for learning that really is that driver?
Well, I don't know if that's for everybody, but certainly for me, probably for you. I think if you worked in healthcare, I don't think anyone that works in healthcare, they didn't do that by accident. They did that because they wanted to help save lives, or they had a personal instance where they saw the power that a doctor had or a hospital in saving someone's life, and they wanted to be part of that game, for their contribution of life, and then they'll make a living as well. But I don't think you know. I think the best, if you want to tie to your passion, you got to take a job for your passion, and then
Or create
even
it.
yeah, and then I think initially initially not worry about the money, but to take a job, out of school, just a job that pays the most, I think that's going to pretty hollow pretty quick, and
Mhm.
because much stronger to take a job that feeds your soul and has a purpose, a higher calling that you can be proud to be a part of and to tell your friends and family about, and what you're doing with your life. And so um as for example, when I finished my MBA at Berkeley, and my wife was working on her master's, and she wasn't done yet. She had another semester. So it's like, oh, what am I going to do for, we didn't know where we were gonna end up settling, so I'm not gonna take a job yet. So what? Hey, I got 6 months to do whatever the heck I want to do.
Nice.
I'm gonna go work for a bookstore, and I and I went into Barnes and Noble, and I filled out an application. I had an MBA, and they laughed me out of the store because
Wow.
it's like, well, I guess I better tone this down. So I applied to a B. Dalton's, and I said, well, I hope to, one day be a writer, and they gave me this job. It paid $2.17 an hour, and it was perhaps the best job I ever had in my life.
Oh,
Every day was like Christmas. I was a receiving clerk, and I got this publisher. I got instant feel for the publisher, and I could take home whatever book I wanted to read and look at it. It was just I loved it. I got the regional manager sat around the corner. I could hear him on the phone. I just loved it. It was-
that's awesome. Well, and
so
that's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast, because having been in the consulting and training industry for 30 years, I wanted to start some type of legacy, and starting my career in healthcare and somewhat on the back nine, ending it. And I feel like a lot of our leaders need inspiration in healthcare. Some of them have stories where they were a patient and then they went back to school because they felt like it could be better, and now they're CEOs of a hospital. Another lady I interviewed was a respiratory therapist, and she just felt led and called to go into leadership. She didn't know how she was going to do that. So she went back to school and got her master's in healthcare administration. So much like, your career has been these stepping stones, some of these people are really in that walk as well. And their stories are powerful. Some of the ways that they energize and inspire people and reward people. That's another reason why I wanted to showcase you and some of your books, because so many people out there are hungry for knowledge. They want to do things better. They just might not know how. So, as you look forward, what's something big on the horizon for you in 2026?
well, probably the thing I'm most excited about is the new book. So I'm working with a lot of great companies, and every day's kind of a every day's kind of a joy, in terms of the opportunities. And my wife once told me, Bob, anytime you want to make more money, you just start making phone calls or start typing, and that's kind of been the my journey. And so it's really you can be as successful as you want, especially when you're a sole entrepreneur like yourself and myself, that no one can fire you, basically, that you have as much opportunity as you're willing to put in the time to develop. But
Well, and I want to really use this moment to encourage people even if you're in a very difficult, demanding space right now, I want you to do what you can to create the work life and the life that you love, because every day truly is a gift, and we're not guaranteed tomorrow, and we certainly can't fret over yesterday. But being positive and purposeful in our day-to-day interactions. And I have to ask this question because it's my
so be
favorite question.
well, on that, just sort of Gandhi, be the change you want to be, you want to make in the world. Be it
Absolutely.
yourself, but
That's my favorite quote,
it's
Bob.
not them. Well, that's up there with me too. It's not. We always think that change is someone else needs to change. It's like, no, no, you need to change, and
Exactly.
be the change, and live the change, live the reality that you want us all to have, and that's going to get you closer, faster to your goals than trying to force others to accommodate you.
Absolutely.
So
So if you were going to talk to your younger self and give yourself some words of wisdom or encouragement, what would you say?
I'd say trust your instinct sooner. Trust
Good.
your instinct, and don't, it's easy to follow someone else's path, and whether that's your parents and I had loving parents, and they're very supportive, but or you can't live your life for someone else and someone else's expectations.
Right.
Your parents, your spouse, your friends. You got to live it for yourself, and what is it that you value, and hopefully it's not just money, because that's kind of hollow. But
Sure.
what do you want to be spending your time with, and what differences do you want to make in the world? I've got my son, for example. He works for a company called Zipline, and they started by by delivering hospital supplies uh, to hospitals in Uganda.
Wow.
It's a drone technology, and it got very successful. and now they're evolving to they just now they're doing deliveries for Walmart. They just signed up Wendy's, and it's sort of and he's on the team to develop the next generation of drone to do drone delivery of things that people need, you know. So whether it's hospital supplies or whether it's fed now, whether it's fast food is expanding, but they can deliver a package to a square foot anywhere, you know. They could
Wow.
drop it. It's incredible, and so it's you know, but be have something that has makes a difference in the world, and you can benefit as you help others. So for 2026, the book A Thousand One Ways to Grow Employees, I'm excited about that. And again, I see so many companies, so many employees, they end up leaving their company because there's nowhere to go.
Mm.
Their boss isn't going anywhere, and so they have to leave to go somewhere else. And I think I think it doesn't need to be that way. I think that if we work with employees, that there's a way to, as you help employees develop and give them opportunity along the way, they will stay, you
Mm.
know, and maybe it ends up they create a new job, and there's so many stories that I've got firsthand experience of where people, because they had an idea, it led
Mhm.
to something that now they're running a department, you know, that you take, I'll give you just one out of hundreds. You have to buy the book for the whole thousand, but
That's right.
but Ralph Stair, who's CEO of Johnsonville Foods, the makers of great brats. He had an admin, Elaine Crawford, and one day she said, "Mr. Stair, why we have such a great product? Why don't we sell it directly to consumers? We sell it all to a middleman, and you know." And he said if she'd asked it a couple of years earlier, he would have said, "Well, Elaine, that's why you're hired to type the letters. We make those type of decisions in upper management." But but he didn't say that. He said, "Elaine, that's an interesting idea. Why don't you check into that? Let me know what you find out." Okay. Fast forward 18 months later, Elaine Crawford, formerly admin assistant, is now running their direct-to-consumer division,
Wow.
sales division, which in its first year made $2 million. Now she has people working for her to help implement the idea that she had. You know,
Absolutely. And it's so important to listen to people and to ask good questions and then to implement the ideas that they're saying. And that creates a culture of innovation, a culture of collaboration. And I think you and I could probably talk like an entire day on this or even a week on this.
I
And
believe it.
I am it's so excited and honored that you've been with me today. So share with people how they can get in touch with you, Bob.
Well, I have my company's in San Diego, Nelson Motivation Inc. I've got a website, www.drbobnelson.com, and it's got my services. I do speaking, I do consulting, I do coaching, and I've got not all, but a lot of my books listed there at discount prices. So that'd probably be the best way.
Awesome. And again, my name is Merikay Hunt of Coach MK Companies, where we are dedicated to help people go to the next level and create positive, purposeful change. I invite you to like and subscribe to our podcast for future inspirational stories of leaders in healthcare and outside of healthcare making an impact in organizations throughout the globe. Blessings to you and make every day count.
Mary Kay, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.